I feel sorry for Henry. For the rest of his life, wherever he goes, people will toss coins at him. Has that ever happened? Has some journalist like me or some idiot in the street gone,
no one yet, but I mean, watch this space.
Yep.
Also, don't throw anything at me. I'll throw it back.
Obviously, there's always a kind of a challenge with
Horse
whatever
riding?
the script is. I know, she thinks I'm a bad horse rider.
No,
That's always a challenge.
There was just a running theme that Henry was often slipping over, which was quite funny. We were walking up a hill and he'd slipped, and then we were somewhere else and then he walked down a hill and slipped. And it was just like, mate, I mean, I know he's tall, so fair enough, but it was kind of funny.
Pretty sure I'm the only guy in London who could. And I'm not a professional lutenist by any stretch of my imagination, but I can definitely muddle my way through. Usually I
More than muddle, Joey.
I can do play Wonderwall, and that tends to happen on set a lot.
I mean, to join a family that is big like this, I never tried before. And to be invited as a family member and saying, you're not only a family member, you are a father. I was like, okay, but what do you want? We want senses, we want feelings, we want emotional stuff, we want peacefulness, we want to learn about ourselves.
Who is most like their character?
I'd say Freya's pretty like Ciri. She's a little lion cub. She is. She's feisty and brilliant and determined and kind of will never quit. She won't give up. She works hard to get what she wants.
People will notice, especially this season, we probably deviated more from the books than we ever will again. Blood of Elves was notoriously difficult to adapt because it is a book based mostly around character moments. We tried to honor those character moments, but we also knew that we needed to add in a little bit more action and a little bit more of a forward thrust, especially to Geralt's story. And we needed to add a Yennefer story because she doesn't show up in the books toward the end, until the end, when she's training Ciri.
Ever since I was 17, traveling the world, living out of my suitcase from job to job. And so I have friends and acquaintances around the world, but a very small core group of friends. But it's, always on the move and never in one place. And so whatever traits come from that kind of lifestyle, I think Geralt and I might have some similarities.
I think for me, the essence of Triss is her vulnerability and her sense of duty. And I think those two things govern a lot of her actions. Sometimes they have great consequences and sometimes they leave a little bit to be desired. But that's definitely something that I've tried to channel in my portrayal of her. That's something that I'm able to identify and hopefully something that I can drive through as we continue the journey with her.
I remember Adam, the stunt coordinator, kind of saying to me, I mean, you might as well sleep here, Freya, at this point. Like, he'd see me in the morning, come back in, and I was, like, hours later and I was still there, just because I loved it. I also loved the stunt department as well. It was just so much fun, and I'm just exactly like Ciri in terms of, like, wanting to be perfect and wanting to learn more and more and more and get better and better and better and be as good as I can be. So yeah, I loved all of that, and also getting to do stunts as well. Some stunts which did actually, like, involve like some, adrenaline.
This has a source material, which is books to draw from, and so there's a story which is already there. And while this is Lauren's version of that story, this is more so a book IP than it is a game IP. Yes, there is a huge fan base based from the games, which is based upon the books. And so I think that is the trick. Cracking the code as far as turning games into live action is still a tricky thing, because the one thing about games is that it's dealer's choice. And that makes things tricky when it comes to watching someone else's vision, someone else's product, making all the choices for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to root him in something real and not just be like short-tempered for the sake of it. So I made him, very insecure. He's very jealous of Geralt, and insecure about himself. So he's scared of making genuine connections with people. So that's why he often like shouts down Triss, or because he's secretly worried about building genuine connections with these people, and Siri, he feels threatened by this new energy that's in his home. You know, he likes what he likes and he doesn't like change. And so that makes people react in the way that Lambert reacts. And it was very enjoyable and colourful to play. I liked it.
I mean, the Joker, who's the Joker on set, really? It's Eamon, really.
Look at you as well. I mean, Eamon, Joey, Henry as well.
Henry does make us cool.
Freya, she's
Freya's got a little cheeky side to it, yeah.
So, since you mentioned Henry, so what is it like to work with such a, man? The perfect man. So,
Obviously, it's very distracting because he's very attractive, but I am a married woman and I'm a professional, so I concentrate on my lines and I look him in the eyes.
There is a tragic and unmovable love between those two characters, and so that's something which is important to me.
I feel like it's between Geralt and I, it's something we just navigate quite easily. It's very easy to work with Henry, especially with this dynamic. We know how important it is to the fans. It's more just instinctual with the writing and with our connection to the characters and each other. It's very easy to play.
This is the thing about Kim. He's hysterical because he doesn't realise he's hysterical. He is hysterical. You don't realise you're the funniest man on the planet.
No, I don't.
Like, he's so funny.
What was it like getting to share scenes with Anya?
It was so nice. I mean, we know each other obviously off screen now, before we've even been able to act together. So, you know, it was nice having that. Also, there's an element of it being a bit awkward because usually when you go on a job, you kind of don't know the person too well. So you sort of like don't really care. But then we were both a bit like, oh, this is a bit weird, isn't it, that we're now acting in front of each other? But very quickly you get into it and then it only is useful as like a tool, you know, that trust that we have already.
I think, do you know what, one of my standout like shooting chunks was at the very start, actually. Anya and I had quite a lot in the midst of, like, do you remember 2 years ago there was that storm in the UK? But anyway, we were shooting a lot in the rain and the mud on horses. And those are some of my fondest memories from set. Trying to act like you know what you're doing when you really don't.
I honestly think it's because we saw everyone's faces as well.
Yeah.
Because that was before the pandemic hit. So I think that's probably why they also mean a lot to me. Our scenes at the beginning of season 2 is because we got to see people's face. It makes such a difference to experience and set.
Yeah.
So it's funny because when I first started reading The Witcher and thinking about The Witcher, people had spoken to me about the Yen, Triss, Geralt triangle, which really isn't in the books that much. That's a real video game story. In the books, though, there is a very sort of special relationship between Triss and Geralt, and Triss definitely has more intimate feelings. But one of the things that Henry and I talked about from the very beginning is that Geralt thinks Yennefer is dead. He is still mourning her. He is not ready to move on. And then we started talking about how that would impact Triss's journey as well. Because what we didn't want is a woman who's just constantly lusting after a man that she can't have and not growing or learning or changing. And one of the things that we landed on was that her feelings for Geralt are less about Geralt himself and more about coming out of the sort of trauma that she experienced from season 1. So learning to feel again.
And there was one moment where I got on the tube one day and I was masked up and everything, but someone was reading The Witcher.
Wow.
And I sat opposite him and he genuinely just went, and this moment of, and you just kind of do a little wave and those are the sort of moments of the fandom where you just, it's adorable. It's so fun.
It's the amount of times I've wanted to say it and I've thought, this is perfect. It's just starting to rain.
Looks like rain.
Or the wind is howling.
Wind's howling.
And then I think, you know what? That feels like doing an injustice to Doug Cockle. Cockle did an amazing job there. That's his realm. I'm not going to start nicking his lines. I've done a version of the voice which he did, and I'm not going to start nicking his lines. That's not cool.
No one recognises me.
You're like a ninja.
The impact of the success of this show is not, I just don't feel it at all. Other than when I go to the premiere, which was a day ago, and that was lovely.
Obrigada por assistirem este compilado de entrevistas legendadas por mim, Julia Barcelos. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Deixem um like e se inscrevam se ainda não forem inscritos aqui no canal. Obrigada pelos 10.000 seguidores, vocês são demais. E um mega beijo.